Welcome to Gumball Love. I'm Melissa Ledger, professional relationship coach, creator of Gumball Love and the Back to You Academy. If you're ready to stop the cycle of toxic men, get through the breakup once and for all, and finally get back to you, you are in the right place. This journey is about healing your heart, and you are encouraged to take the pace that is just right for you. In the process, you will build a foundation of confidence and strength that will make you unshakable, I promise. So get ready to level up your mindset and your lifestyle as you awaken the seeds of greatness just waiting to burst into full bloom. Let's do this. Welcome back to another episode of Gumball Love. I'm your host, Melissa Ledger. Gumball Love is where we stop the cycle of sugar high romance, discover your worth, and find true love. That is the mission of this platform. And those three things there's a lot packed in of stopping the cycle of sugar high romance. If you're brand new to Gumball Love or you've been a part of this community for a long time, I'm introducing brand new content that has evolved as this concept has grown. And as I fell in love and experienced the real thing, not only am I able to offer you that perspective, which I hadn't been able to offer you before. I had not had heartbreak since discovering Gumball Love, which do you know that I just realized that in the last week that I really never fell in love. Like I didn't have a fall hard experience since my last breakup. Now I'm going to tell you that last breakup, like I've dated other guys, don't get me wrong, but 2008 was when I had my last hard breakup. And it wasn't until about 2010 that I really started to come up with Gumball. I started to like really play with Gumball Love as the concept, in a more public way. Actually, I don't even think it was public. I just started working on the concept as a thing versus just talking about it and journaling about it. I started to think maybe this was actually a concept. But I started thinking, wow, even with Gumball Love at its most infancy stages, I was still needing therapy. I still had a lot of work to do on myself. And I wasn't somebody who dated a lot. So I by no means, I'm hesitating here. I'm like, I don't want you to think it's going to take you over 10 years to find love again, because I believe that God took me through this very long process where I was in Nebraska and I was figuring all of this out. And then I had a dream to move to New York City and I started to plan that. And then that came to fruition and Gumball Love was really born into, it really got legs in New York City. And then there was ballroom dancing and there was meeting people like Cara Alwill from the Champagne Diet and connecting with people like Alex Beaton and Kelly Lynn Adams and Rachel Luna and going to events and finally finding my people, finding my voice, having the confidence to do a podcast, do an academy, coaching women. It was really coming into my own. And when you go through that process, like if you think of an athlete that starts from childhood and then they become, a professional, let's say, and you look at that journey, how much can that individual teach someone who's starting out? When I can teach you, I can look back and go, oh my gosh, let me help you avoid so many areas where I was stuck. Because just because I had Gumball Love in my mind in 2008, 9, 10, I didn't realize A, how powerful it was, B, how much it really meant. And it took years to cultivate this, mostly because I was just this girl that I had a broken heart and I was just trying to figure it out myself. And I spent weeks, years, but I was going to say weekends, so many weekends in the library studying. Is this a thing? I had so much self-doubt about this concept, and I just couldn't imagine that me, Melissa Ledger, who had heartbreaks and, I never went to the prom. I never had a boyfriend in high school, and I didn't feel like I don't know, my whole relationship history, just I would have never thought in a million years that I could come up with something that would be like a real concept that would change lives. And so I'm telling you that because I want you to realize how important you are and how important your ideas are. You are here on this earth for a reason. And so don't spend years doubting yourself. Thank God for my sister when I said, is this a dumb thing? Is this gumball thing dumb? And she just stared at me with kind of like that Kourtney Kardashian, like no expression stare. And she goes, no, it's not stupid. And trust me, my sister, who was terrified I'd become a huge nerd, I was able to hide my nerdiness. And now I just let my nerdiness out. But, she was being protective big sister. And she would always tell me, okay, when my hair wasn't doing, can you imagine her hair advice in the 80s and early 90s? What we were telling each other was cool. It's the worst ever. But 80s hair, I mean, how can you imagine, just as a side note, like, I don't even know if I could do my bangs. Like, if I have bangs right now, do you think you could produce the 80s look with the hairspray and the curl? Remember how you had to curl it and tease it and stack it and spray it? Like, I mean, I feel like I would have to develop that skill again. Anyway, so yeah, those were the things of it was like that slow like you grab the hair and then you would like let it go and spray it. So my 80s girls, 90s girls, like the big hair. But, she was always that person helping me fit in and going through those awkward times. And, I just felt like, am I doing something bizarre? And I'm so thankful, because if she would have said, yeah, this is stupid, or I don't know what you're doing with this gumball thing, because it was nowhere. It was in front of no one. It was not even a thing. And it could have been killed at the start. So if you have an idea, if there's something in your heart and you really don't know what you're doing with it, I had no idea what I was doing. I was journaling, I was reading books, I was writing, like pretending I was a writer, and really knowing I had no writing experience, but I just felt like a writer inside. And I'm getting my edits back. I'm getting chills right now because I sat last night. I'm in the middle of writing and I sent her my first chapter, then my second chapter. I'm working on my third chapter now. And there was a lot of back and forth and working through the outline. It took weeks to work through the outline. Now it's taking, it'll take months to go through the whole manuscript. But she was like, your writing is great, and giving all this feedback. She's like, you know how to write with, you know how to give a dramatic moment and turn this. And that was just like all these things and I just sat there like, this is about my writing, that I'm actually a writer? Is this happening? I mean, the things that I felt inside that I couldn't manifest with any other, I couldn't explain why I felt like that. And I think maybe some of us that have watched Sex and the City, for me, when I was watching Sex and the City, there was such a connection to Carrie Bradshaw because she was writing about relationships. And so then there was like, okay, am I just trying to be Carrie Bradshaw? But in reality, I had a real idea. And so don't underestimate, even if you're watching something that is in fantasy, let me give you permission to fantasize a little bit, because sometimes there is a connection to something. And I just want you to give yourself permission to explore it and really seek it out. So that's just a little backstory. So if you don't know me, I'm not going to go through the whole thing, but I created this concept, and really, I think the website truly went live probably 2014 is when I, put it out to the public. And, social media was like, with the algorithms. And I think are we all just tired of liking posts too? I think, how many posts do we see that we don't even like anymore? Like, I think there's sort of a social media fatigue, yet we're all still there. We're all still watching. But even in the early days, I just didn't know who was really liking the content, relating to the content. So I spent a lot of time not knowing how to interpret people's responses or lack of response until it really started to get going in 2015, 2016. And now I have hundreds of stories and so many DMs. And had I not continued, there would be people that are not married today, which is insane. There would be babies not born. Do you know how weird it is for me, in the most amazing weird way, or amazingly weird, that I look at these babies being born now and think, this is my mission, to see happy, healthy couples have happy, healthy babies. because those babies are born into true love. And that means that they won't have abandonment issues. They won't go through the crap that we've gone through. They won't need so much therapy. Nobody's going to be perfect. Everybody's going to have issues. You're never going to raise perfect kids with no issues, but not having those basic fears and attachment to raise children with the security of real love and secure attachment, that is the mission of this platform. So I just wanted to cover that briefly. And also, I wanted to talk to you about the advice that we get on dating from some dating quote unquote experts, the clickbait stuff. And I wanted to just take you through, number one, when I used to look at this stuff, I was so years back before Gumball Love, even the beginning Gumball Love stages, I was trying to figure out why are certain guys attracted to certain girls? You go to a wedding, you look at people that are getting engaged and you're like, why is this working for them? And so I would look up advice online. I would find books. I was in the self-help section all the time. Also because I just love nonfiction and self-help was always intriguing to me. Again, I didn't really know why I was drawn to that section, but I just was. Always have been. I was listening to Tony Robbins when I was 16 years old. So I'm a weirdo like that. And you probably can relate because this is considered self-help and in that genre. But when you are a person, I know we have this in common, where you want to become a better person. You want to become your best self. And this being a part of this community is doing the hard work. And the advice out there, and I posted this in our private Facebook group. It was Kate Walsh in Private Practice. If you know her, she was in Grey's Anatomy too, just with that face like, oh my God, I'm just so frustrated because I am on these email lists and on purpose, I am on these lists just to piss myself off, but also just to show myself this is what advice my girls are getting. And if you're brand new, I don't know why, but this is also something that I should have been more in tune with, that I feel like a responsibility, like a mama bear responsibility to women. And that's a lot because there's a lot of women, but I just feel like I have such a bond feeling of I feel responsible that you find real love. And it's just this thing that's in me. And I've always felt it. In fact, I know this is why I just now thought of this. This is why I didn't have boyfriends in high school a lot, in junior high, because I was watching my friends go through boyfriends and breakups. And I was so interested in what was going on and why they were feeling hurt and what the guy was doing and how she responded. I was so intrigued by that process that I almost felt like the outsider looking in. And it also had to do with my self-worth issues. I couldn't really see myself being worthy of having that kind of relationship for other reasons, not for this podcast, but, just having low self-esteem in general. But even though I had low self-esteem and I didn't have the boyfriend in high school, I still was so, I had this weird, I keep saying weird, but I just had this huge interest in, I used to say, boy meets girl, falls in love. How does that work? What's actually going on? And I was so fascinated, I was going to Hollywood and I was also looking at dating advice, thinking that men writing books about these things were teaching us something. And what I realized now is that men that write this advice, so if you guys know, my full-time work is in the banking business. A few jobs ago, we'll just say that to keep it vague, I was working at a company. And that company happened to be doing the banking business for one of these clickbait dating advice, quote unquote, experts. I'm going to have to be super vague. Okay. But I got to see how much money was being made. So I was sitting there with this guy who was he was a fraud guy, and he was wearing these high-waisted pants with a braided belt. He had zero cares about anything fashion related. He was just this super nice guy, but super nerdy, really into fraud stuff. And he had no emotion toward any of the accounts. And he was training me and we were going through the systems. And I saw this name and I was like, oh my God, we do business. They do business here. And he said, yeah. he used to be in the business of being a pickup artist, but then they switched it to help women with relationships. So whatever, it's kind of in the high risk because they are high on the chargebacks, meaning the returns. Like people were charging back, wanting their money back, but they were able to manage that margin so that they could stay in business. Because if you have more than 1% of your transactions, when you're doing credit card transactions of more than 1% are chargebacks, then Visa, MasterCard can shut you down. So they were managing that margin. And I was thinking, oh my gosh, that means all these people that are buying these products, a lot of them are returning the merchandise. And so, or trying to get their money back rather, these online programs. And so it was so crazy to listen to this guy who was basically, his job was to watch for fraudulent activity. He looked at this account as somewhat high risk, although the advice that the guy was giving online it's not like it's going to, harm you, but kind of. I think it does harm you. But anyway, it's not like he was, doing like malicious intent or anything. But the advice is basically, this is what it's saying. It's saying, okay, if you want to attract men, all of a gender, then do these things. Okay, so now you're not doing these things. So now you're going to start doing ABC 1, 2, 3, whatever that is. Sometimes it's create the chase. Sometimes it's wait a few minutes before you return the text. Sometimes it's wear the flirty dress. Don't wear too much. Don't wear red nail polish, or do wear red nail polish, or be bold in this area, but not. So you follow all this advice. So there's the one thing, like do all of these things to attract men. And this is what you're doing wrong. So these are the mistakes you're making. They always like to say, don't make this mistake. And then we all go, oh no, I'm making a mistake. I don't want to be that girl. So then we assume that this guy that we've never met just because he has a penis is telling us what all men want. And I was talking about this with my love, Ian, and he said, and I'm going to bring up this quote. He said, you're changing the loving person you want to be into someone that is playing games. Oh, I was like, I have to write that down right now. I used to think that too. I would have this thought like, this isn't really me, and I would think in the back of my mind, well, if I do these things, I'm not really being myself. So is that going to matter? Because eventually he is going to see who I am. And then is he going to like me, the real me? Like, when does the real me show up? And is that going to, so then I would do these things. I would follow the advice. And what I didn't realize was happening is I was losing myself. I was changing who I was, or thinking that who I was wrong. Oh, if you do this, that's a mistake. Stop doing that. So now we have this, I'm going to beat myself up like, oh yeah, I have been doing that. I'm so dumb. That's what it is. That's why I'm scaring this guy away. Like, the guy is the prize. And look, I think both are the prize. You're the prize, he's the prize if he's a good guy. So this idea that somebody's on a pedestal and we've got to do these things to attract the guy, and if you do one thing that scares him away, that's the mistake you're making, and here we're going to help you not make that mistake. But then what about the other guy that's giving advice that says something different than the first guy? So now you have, then you can be like me, where I had, 15, 20, 30 books, all saying some of the same things, but a lot of the different things. Some guys like Steve Harvey will tell you it's all about sex. Steve Harvey, love you, you're funny, but you can't speak for all men, because Steve Harvey is clearly motivated by sex. You can tell. And he probably has a great marriage, and he can use, I don't really know. So don't quote me on Steve Harvey, because I have done zero research on his actual marriage. But just when he talks about relationships, he talks about the cookie, which is the sex. And it's like, so then am I manipulating him by withholding and giving out sex? Like, is that, but in his mind, that's what's key. And it's like, really, and he does it in a playful, funny way, but then it makes us think, okay, is that what I'm supposed to do? And there's so many, I remember being so confused about this, and I didn't know what I was supposed to be following, what advice I was supposed to be taking. And so this became a very confusing process. So I just wanted to tell you, first of all, I want you to just think of this in two ways. Is the advice telling me that I am doing something wrong? And if I look at that advice, I'm not saying that it's all the bad. I'm not saying they're like everything they're telling you is wrong, but I want you to look at it and say, if I follow that advice, am I changing who I am? So number one, first I want you to ask and look at the advice and say, are they saying this is what men want? All men. And so I always joke when I talk about Ian, my boyfriend, like that, I found the nerdiest, cutest, like most dork. I mean, it's like, we're such huge nerds. We're such dorks. And he is such a quirky, like, it's like we have so many quirks. He has so many quirks. I have so many quirks. And I think he's so different than any guy that I've ever been with. And so if I were doing what men want, I would not be attractive to him by the standard of advice that is given. Like if all men, because when I say, I'll read to him, this is what they say men want. And he'll be like, yeah, I wouldn't be attracted to that. So I just want you to keep that in mind, that when someone says this is what men want, I want you to think of the guy of your dreams may disagree. And so he probably will disagree. So it is not about what men want, because we cannot appeal to a whole gender, because every single person, every single man is different. Every single woman is different. We all want different things. So if I start changing, this is what I did. I changed myself to become what I thought, quote, all men wanted, which fits into the stereotype that every guy wants the Victoria's Secret model who is empowered and strong, but not too strong, smart, but not too smart, pretty, but not too pretty, cute, but not too, like all of the things that we've been told through our whole lives, that this is the stereotype and this is the mold that you need to fit in order to be beautiful, in order to be attractive, in order to be desirable. And then they'll tell you something like, confidence is the number one thing men are looking for. Look, I think there's slivers in all of that can be correct, but being the real you is the most attractive to the man of your dreams. And when you are the real you and you feel comfortable in who that is what's going to make you the most beautiful. But it's finding those little things, like I talked about in the beginning, of going on your own journey of being the person you love, having the life that you love. And I'm just going to have to keep saying this in different ways, but it is the journey to then aligning with the love of your life. So I want you to look at two things. Is it telling me what men want? And then if I follow this advice, am I changing who I am to be that? And then I want you to look at, what am I changing about myself in order to fit this advice, in order to do this 1, 2, 3 ABC. It's really easy to write a blog post and sit and think of the top 10 things all women need to do in order to attract a man. Everybody could fill out that. We could Google and we could come up with lists all day long. But that is irresponsible. And it infuriates me, because I think of somebody out there that's looking at that advice, and maybe it's you. I think of you. I think, like, is she going to look at that and change this beautiful, wonderful person that she is to fit some mold of some dork that probably is some, like the guys that I don't respect their advice at all. They're single and they've been single for years, or they never tell a story like, yeah, you know what? I was single and then I met a girl and she did the things that I'm describing and that's how I fell for her. They never say. It's always do this, and they never speak, or rarely speak. Like, one person who I go back and forth on is Matthew Hussey, and he never speaks from his personal relationship experience. It's always this general thing, but he never is like, you know what, when I fell for this girl, or this is what happened. There's never a real connection to their stories. Like, what are they doing? What is their personal experience? Because I find it impossible. Like, how could I talk to you about relationships without talking about my own personal story? So I don't want to beat them up, because I just think that if you're doing this business, hopefully you have a heart to help people find love. But there are some out there that that do have bad intentions. Like I don't think Matthew Hussey has bad intentions, but I think sometimes he gives really bad advice and sometimes he gives really good advice. And I'm confused by that. I'm like, how can you say this in one moment and then you can say, be yourself and be confident and choose your best life. And then also give her a list of the mistakes that she's making. And so I just want you to be really careful of following something that changes who you are. So I'm just going to leave you with this. What is it asking me to do? What do I have to change? And what does that mean? Because there's this essence, there's this beauty of who you are. You are loving, giving. Like I can give all of my love. I can be so emotional. I can be the girly girl that I am. And I do not scare him away. It's like, that's what he loves about me. And so that freedom is what I want you to have. And I want you to know that the things that so many of these people tell you to hide, the things that so many people tell you that are wrong, you're going to scare him away. You're only going to scare away the guy that wasn't meant for you. So I'm going to leave you there. Thank you so much. I would love to hear back from you. Give me a comment in my most recent Instagram posts. And until next time, I'll see you soon. Thank you so much for listening. If you want more information or to schedule a private coaching session, or better yet, to join the next Back to You Academy, go to gumballlove.com. If you loved this podcast, I would love for you to share it with your friends. And if you really loved it, a 5-star review is the best compliment you can give. Remember, you are enough, you are right where you should be, and the only thing you have to do is keep going. I'll leave you with my favorite quote by Henry David Thoreau. Go confidently in the direction of your dreams and live the life you have imagined. Until next time, I'll see you soon.